I had hopped on the 747 train to Babylon. This guy comes in, a really big dude, and he sits right next to me. He comes and sits down. I'm already like, why is this dude sitting next to me? There's so many other seats. So I move my legs from being up just to make myself more comfortable. And he says, you don't have to move your pretty legs. I won't bother you.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Accused Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Heuermann made an unwanted pass, that's in the words of the New York Post, at a creeped-out train goer just days before his shocking arrest for the infamous murders. That's according to the commuter who took secret videos of the chilling encounter. Secret footage like this of the Gilgo ogre on the train drinking a beer sitting right next to her. Another question is, when did Morales figure out that she had the serial killer suspect, Midtown Manhattan architect Rex Heuermann, on her phone? Well, we're going to answer that in this analysis. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Bear in mind, I was actually in Midtown staying at a hotel, something like 200 feet from where his original office was, and very close to the spot where he was ultimately apprehended by NYPD and arrested. I was also very close to the area where that very important piece of evidence, the pizza crust with his DNA on it, was discovered. I later went back there and photographed it. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please subscribe. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So this young woman's name is Kaylin Morales. 21 years old. I think there's something like a 40-year age difference between her and 61-year-old Rex Heuermann. And so when he sat down next to her, she was like, I just thought he was this big, fat, ugly white man. I obviously didn't know who he was at the time. That's what she told the Post. And she said when he sat down next to her, she was immediately on high alert, so much so that she started recording him. But he apparently even spoke to her. He said, oh, you don't have to move your pretty legs, I won't bother you. The part that I think is quite interesting is he didn't actually bother her after that. It doesn't seem as though he interacted with her. It doesn't look like he touched her or looked at her. It just seems like he sat next to her. But nevertheless, she felt uncomfortable, and so she started secretly recording videos and pictures of him. Just in case, for my own safety, I was like, let me just get evidence of who this person is, she explained. Now, I think she had no idea of who this person was, and if you think about it, that was actually really dangerous. Can you imagine if he'd figured out what she was doing? One Snapchat clip, which Morales captioned at the time, she wrote, like, why the fuck is there mad open seats and this guy sits next to me and can't stop? Oh, so he was talking to her. Like, I literally can't ever catch a break. Shows Heuermann wearing khaki cargo pants and holding a Miller Lite can. So I wonder what else he did say to her. She doesn't really say that. Did he say anything beyond, you don't need to move your pretty legs? And so if he said, I'm not going to bother you, well, obviously he did. But it would be interesting to know what else he said. In another video captioned, the cracking of a new drink is crazy, with a crying emoji, she wrote, I simply can't. And it shows Heuermann's stubby fingers cracking his second beer while the phone is sitting on his thigh, and it appears to show a New York Post article. She says, I could have moved, but I was like, is he going to say something else to me? Like, I just don't want to interact with this man any further. Everything about him was sussing me out. Well, certainly her sixth sense was on point, wasn't it? So she said, so I thought the best thing to do was ignore him and put my AirPods in and look out the window. She also said that she felt boxed in by Heuermann's large body. Although she could see and feel Heuermann talking to her more, so apparently he was talking to her, but she doesn't really know what he was saying, the music in her AirPods intentionally drowned his voice out, she recalled. So when did all of this happen? Well, Kaylin Morales, she was on her way home from a dinner date in the Big Apple in New York, and she was heading to Babylon. Babylon is 13 minutes from the Massapequa Park stop, and it would cost about between $3 and $12 to take that journey on the Long Island Railroad. I've actually gone on it a couple of times myself. Babylon may even be the very next stop after Massapequa. I'm not 100% sure about that. Is there anyone who uses this often that knows that for a fact? In any event, they're quite close to each other, which is why these two individuals had this encounter to begin with. And so Morales, 21 years old, she was on a nearly empty Babylon-bound LIRR, that's Long Island Railroad train, around about 7:45 p.m. on July 1st, 2023. And that was actually a Saturday. So one wonders what he was doing by himself on that particular day to be returning at that time of night, and also whether his wife and child were in town, because if they weren't, then she certainly would have been in real danger, right? In any event, he plops down in the seat right next to her, despite the rest of the car being deserted. And in the New York Post's words, it was a killer commute. Well, it could have been. It wasn't. It could have been. Well, I don't think Human made a pass at her. I think he was hoping that she was a hooker and that she might make a pass at him. I think the idea that the creeper from Massapequa had the balls to make passes misses the point. I don't think he did have the balls to do that. It's because he has such low self-esteem, such low agency with women, that he was preying on women and preying on them in the vicious way that he was, preying on prostitutes. If Human was the sort of guy the New York Post mistakenly believes him to be, trying to make a pass at young women like Morales, and let's say she'd responded, then I don't think we'd be dealing with the frustrated serial killer that haunted Gilgo Beach. Of course, we don't know what he was actually saying when he was talking to her and the music was drowning out whatever she was saying. It does seem as though he was trying to make some kind of contact with her. And I think that is a very interesting point, is how successful was he with women, as in non-prostitutes, at this particular time of his life? Anyway, the Post goes on to note that another clip that Morales took, shows Human exiting the train at Massapequa, where he lived for years before getting nabbed for the infamous murders. When news of Human's arrest broke nearly 2 weeks later, Morales was aghast. So, this was 2 weeks before his arrest. This is when Human was free, and if he had committed these crimes, thinking that he'd gotten away with it, so you can imagine he was quite cocky at this point. Now, I think what this incident shows is that up to his arrest, Human was still, in a way, on the prowl, even if some time had passed since his latest torture fest. That's, again, alleged, right? And that is pretty chilling. Is that on every commute back home, the woman around him was sitting near an alleged serial killer. And if, as in Morales' case, they were sitting alone, they were truly, probably, in mortal danger. And so it's to her credit that Morales sensed something was more than a little hinky with this dude. And so she says, my heart immediately sank to the floor. It was literally the craziest feeling. I couldn't even believe it. Yes, she's referring to when she found out who the creeper was. In what sort of close proximity she was to one of the most dangerous individuals she would probably ever meet. Obviously, there's a sense that she could easily have been one of his victims. In terms of proximity, yes, but in real terms, I'm not sure if she was exactly his type profession-wise. In any event, she decided to submit the clip she'd taken of Human to Suffolk County Crime Stoppers in case it could be of use. It's not very clear when she did that. We do know that nearly 2 years after this creepy encounter, Morales posted this footage on her TikTok account. This was May 5. That's quite a while ago. She says, I was worried if I posted right after his arrest, if he had a partner, I didn't want them coming after me, so I waited. She certainly waited for quite a long time. And she said, after I watched the Netflix documentary and I saw that he did this alone, I felt more comfortable sharing my experience. Now, I wonder if there are any other women who sat next to him on his commute, journey I've also taken, and were also creeped out. Imagine if Morales had posted this at the time, or if some other woman who had been creeped out had done the same thing. Perhaps a life could even have been saved. Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. Stay vigilant, people, and I'll see you guys next time.